All right, well, speaking now of closures and breaking them, I'm joined by Israeli police spokesperson, Superintendent Mickey Rosenfeld. Mickey, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
All right, now, first of all, 4,000 fines for rule violations. That's what was reported. What were the most common violations this year?
Well, over the last 5 days, since the general lockdown is being implemented across the country, we've seen the majority of the public who have been implementing the rules and regulations in the majority of the different areas, including the public areas. Unfortunately, we did see a small number, in fact, about 4,000 fines that were given out when people did not keep to the rules and regulations, some of them being within the ultra-religious Haredi neighborhoods, some of them being within the Israeli Arab neighborhoods, and some in the general public along the beachfronts in the areas of Tel Aviv, for example. But in general, our main emphasis is continuing both in terms of between the highways, between the different areas. We're talking about in between cities to prevent and minimize the movements of people from up to 1 kilometer. And we're hoping that the national efforts will continue for the next 10 days until further government decisions.
Well, so that's it. So we're now moving into the Sukkot holiday from Yom Kippur. What, challenges or lessons learned have you that is going to carry on into the enforcement over the coming weeks?
Well, we've assessed the situation in general across the country, both to make sure that we'll have enough officers to be in the right places at the right time, 7,000 police officers involved, including 1,000 IDF personnel working together in all of the different areas. We've understand that inside the ultra-religious communities in the area of Bnei Brak, Beitar Elite, we need to emphasize more police work, as we've seen gatherings that have taken place inside synagogues, which is something that we've had to deal with. Extra efforts are being made also along the beachfronts throughout the north to south in order to make sure that our police officers are patrolling different areas, both on foot, both on vehicles. And of course, we're looking ahead towards the Sukkot festival, where we're waiting, of course, as of today, for the next government decision to see if there are any further rules and regulations that have to be implemented over the next few days, in fact.
I see. All right. Well, what about some of the protests? Because we understand that thousands of Israelis went out to protest against the government, be that against alleged corruption or against the rules and regulations of coronavirus. What was the general attitude towards the demonstrations? How did the police address them?
Well, our approach was to allow the demonstrations to take place at this moment in time, to allow people to gather, to make sure that social distancing was being kept as much as possible, 2 meters in between person to person. We also had a lot of police units that were on the ground, patrolling the different areas, asking people and making sure that they were keeping social distancing, and even giving out fines in certain cases, unfortunately, when people gathered very closely to one another. So in terms of the regular gatherings and the protests that are taking place, we're still waiting for today's decision to be made, the cabinet decision, the government decision, as to what the rules and regulations will be specifically for future demonstrations.
All right, but it sounds like in general, the 20-person maximum outside rule was broken and allowed to be broken in a sense, it sounds like. Is that correct?
Well, rules were broken, unfortunately. What was important was to emphasize social distancing, wearing masks at all times, as you can see, in public areas. I think that the approach of the public is positive. We're going to continue working together in order to make sure that we can minimize the number of people that are getting affected by COVID-19, as unfortunately we've seen the numbers go up so highly over the last week.
All right. Mickey Rosenfeld, thank you so much for being with us. Chag Sameach.